Hi everybody, welcome to my channel. My name is Dennis. So today we're going to do a overview, build. It's kind of a build guide basically of a Corsair 4000X RGB case, 5900X CPU, and I'll show you all the different parts, and I'll have it listed in the description as well, so you know everything's in there. And we're going to go ahead and build it, and I'm going to focus on the front panel connectors. I'm going to try and show you that as much as I can, and focus as well on the case cables, where they all go, what all plugs in, so you know how it all works. All right, here we go. Okay, so first thing I'm going to do is go over the parts. We have a Corsair HX1000i power supply. I have custom modded cables. All right, I'm going to use the MSI 1080 graphics card. It's older, but still works really good. I had 5900X CPU, G-Skill memory 3600, and the Prime B550 Plus from ASUS, and the ASUS Wi-Fi 6 card, which is a, let me just give you the exact make and model here, just in case you're looking for it. So it's the PCIe-AX3000 dual band PCIe Wi-Fi adapter. So just wanted you to have that in case you want to use it in your build. It works really good. I've had this fired up before just to test the temps and everything. So that's there. And of course the Corsair 4000X RGB case that's going to go in. Now if I missed anything, don't worry. I'll add it in the description in the video so you have a list of all the parts. So I'm going to go ahead, since I've already got the motherboard and everything all put together already from previous videos to show you how the temperatures were and everything like that. We're just going to start putting that in the system. It's going to basically be an overview. It's not a build per se, but I will make sure to do as much detail as I can on all the cables in the case. But that's the biggest thing that you're going to stumble across maybe anyway, and that you're going to want to know. So we'll go over that in as much detail as I can so you can see what everything plugs into, where it plugs into, and what you need to know in that particular case. So we're going to get going. First thing is going to be installing the motherboard. Pretty simple stuff. Let's get to it. So I decided the first thing I was going to do rather than the motherboard was simply put the power supply in. So the power supply goes in through the back on the side here, face down of course, and we're just going to slide it in here, get all our cables fed in, and then we're going to fasten it in the back here. All right, 4 screws, nothing fancy to that. And I'm going to show you just how much room you have in here now. So you got quite a lot of room on the sides, which is good. And of course, having custom cables helps with that a lot. Yeah, so we'll get that in, and then we'll continue. Then we'll go after, once this is secured, then we'll put the motherboard in. It just, to me, I think it makes it easier. So first thing I'm going to do before the motherboard goes in, I go to all our standoffs, make sure they're nice and tight, or at least good and solid so that they're not going to turn when I go to take it back out later on, if I ever happen to do that. Next thing I want to do, install our I/O shield right down here. Make sure you face it in the right direction and put it in. Very simple, just snaps in place, and you shouldn't have to worry about anything too much. So just put it down here, line it along the lip of the bottom. That's it. That's all there is to snapping it in place. So I/O shield is in place. Now we're going to put our motherboard in. So take your motherboard. You're going to make sure that all your standoffs are lined up. Okay, so you just set it in place for beginner. Okay, once you know that all your standoffs line up with the holes, then you can push it in a little bit on this side to make sure that it pushes through your I/O shield, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so I've lined everything up, pushed it over to make sure it goes through your I/O shield properly, so that all your ports are going to line up properly. I've already got our 2 terabyte black SN850 from Samsung in there for NVMe drive. I could put another one in down here later on if I chose to. But our memory's already in, CPU, everything, all that's good. So that's the biggest part of it anyway beforehand. So I'm just going to put in the screws to all the standoff holes and secure it, and then we'll continue with the build. Okay, so I tried to fasten everything on the motherboard in, but this one particular standoff right here, okay, I have a smaller screwdriver, all right, But when I went down to try to get to it, it hung up right there on the top here, so I couldn't get at it. So when worst comes to worst, you go for the longest screwdriver you can get. That's a 10-inch puppy from Craftsman. That allowed me to reach down in there and screw that in. And it's only because of the size of this CPU cooler that it's so large. But you need a big one in order to keep the 5900X nice and cool. So anyway, motherboard's all nicely installed. We're going to go ahead and finish it up. So one of the things I wanted to show you, because it's hard to show you when I plug them in, is where all your front panel connectors are. So I've zoomed in on it so you can see it. Okay, so we're going to go start off with right here. So on the top 2 pins are your power LED. So you have your positive and your negative. So they're going to go side by side here. And then you have on the bottom, on the top, the bottom 2 pins where it says HDD LED on the bottom is for your hard drive LED if you happen to have that cable. Move across from that, you see your power switch. Down below that again, the next 2 pins below it are the reset. And that's pretty much the gist of it. So on the further right hand side of that, so these ones right here, right? That's for your speaker, if you happen to have one. That's so you can hear your beep codes and all that kind of good stuff. So I just wanted to show you that up nice and close so you could see what it is, where it's going to plug in. I'll explain it as I'm doing it, but this will allow you to know exactly where it's going to go. It's a very difficult thing to do because people get it confused. So follow your diagrams in your motherboard, in your manual, or if you don't have one, get it online. But that's where it's going to go. And I'll try and focus on that when I'm actually connecting all the cables. And of course, like I say, beside it to the left is your channel fan. It's the second one you've got. Then you have your USB, another channel fan, sensor, and then on the left of that, okay, your 12-volt RGB header. Okay, that's the second one. There's 2 on this motherboard. So make sure you line up your arrow for your RGB cable if you happen to have one onto that. So this motherboard will depend on what case you're using. Now in this particular case for this build, if we have that cable, that's where we'll plug it in. Or if we have any kind of device that will use it, it goes in there. Line up the 12 volt with the arrow that goes from the RGB cable and you're good. It's 4 pin, so it's pretty hard to confuse it really. And to the right of that is your addressable RGB. So that's where you have 3 pins. So you have 2, 1 missing, and then a pin again. And make sure your arrow goes where it says 5 volt. So that's RGB, addressable RGB, and again, I believe there's 2 of them on this motherboard. And of course your COM port, and I don't think there's anything else except for, I'm just going to show you right here. Okay, you have your Thunderbolt header, but the most important one to the far left is your audio. Okay, so that's where you're going to plug in your audio cable. Okay, so I said I was going to explain the cables from the case. So this cable, of course, is your SATA cable. So you're going to have to make sure you match that with one of these from your power supply. Line up the L's, make sure they go in right. Once you connect them, that's going to power your little hub here. Okay, so that's what is powering your hub. All right, so don't forget to do that or you're going to have issues with fans and all that kind of good stuff. You have another fan connector here from your case. And we have our HD audio, I believe that is, or USB. Okay, so that's the USB that plugs in to control the software from your IQ software for your Lightning Node Core. Another fan header, and you have these cables. So these cables are the ones I was just talking about in terms of those front panel connectors. So you have your PLED negative, you have positive. So I said that wrong. So when I was pointing at it, I said the 2 pins. So there's only 2 pins for your PLED, positive and negative. Okay, so there's one for each one. Okay, so when you put it in, let me just make sure I line that up. Okay, you separate your cables. You're going to have your positive, right, and negative. So you can just turn it like that and put it on. As long as that's on there, that'll work. Okay, so positive and negative for left or right. And of course, then you have your reset, your power switch. And that's pretty much it, except for, like I mentioned, your USB-C. So I'll show you that when that gets plugged into the motherboard. USB 3, all right, pretty standard connectors. And of course, your HD audio, well, they just call it audio, but it's HD audio, all right. So that connector is the AAFP, all right. So that's where all your cables are going to go, other than the ones that are going to connect to, like from your power supply. Okay, so power supply, you've got ones for your CPU, ones for your 24 pins for power, and of course your other peripherals. So as I plug those in, you'll see that. You'll see where they all go. So the next thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to start with, I can put the hard drive in, but I'm going to do that last because it's going to be a mechanical hard drive, probably like an 8 terabyte, thereabouts. Lots and lots of storage. I got it on sale, so why not? But I'm not going to put that into the end because I'm going to be moving the system around a bit, so I don't want to jostle it around and possibly damage it. So that'll be the last thing I put in. And then I'm going to have to connect the SATA cable and a SATA power cable, which is these ones here, right, to it to get its power. Big thing to remember, and a lot of people have issues with connecting their RGB and everything. Now, on a case like this, let me just show you something here. So when they route all your cables when you first get it for your case, they put all your RGB cables, everything, they fasten it all together so you don't have to worry about it. They're trying to take that problem of people getting confused of what plugs in where and everything and do it for you. And then your case cables, as I just explained, those are done next. Plug in anything else, peripherals, your GPU, all that kind of good stuff. And then you put everything from your power supply in to power it up, connected, because without power, it's not going to run, bottom line. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to see what I do next and start plugging in. So what I'm going to do first, on the top here, I'm going to run in our 8-pin CPU power connector, and then I'm going to run in through here our 24-pin for power. So the 24-pin for power, it just simply, it looks like this. Give me 1 second here so I can show it to you. So that's our 24-pin for power. Look for the little connector. Make sure you line that up, right, with when it goes into your system. So how you decide to do that is totally up to you. Whatever works for you is fine. I'm going to slide it in. Now the nice thing about this case is it's open all the way down. So you're not trying to pick which one. You just slide it in. Feed your cable in there until you need it. And you're ready to plug that in. Your CPU for power, I'll run it up in here. I'll turn it around. I'll show you where it all plugs into. Okay, so right up in the top left, right in this corner right here. Okay, so it's very much the same as when you plug in your 24-pin for power. Look for that little tab, line it up, and then just push it into the socket. Okay, that one was easy. Well, actually that one was tricky, but that's why I wanted to do that first and then concentrate on this one to show you basically how it's going to go in. So again, like I say, line up your tab. Okay, so your tab, that's right here with the tab. So if you don't know where it's at, you can't see it, just feel it with your finger. Okay, so the tab's on this side, so going toward the front. Line that up. And if you do it right, everything slides in. And you should, this little tab should, yep, there, it just clicked in place. So custom modded cables, sometimes a little tricky. And that's it. That's in there nice and solid. And I'll tuck this cables back. And I think it's going to be really quite nice once I get those all tucked out of the way. So there, once you've got your cables all tucked out of the way, Okay, nicely hid behind here. Okay, you can see how it's going with my theme. Black, red, and black and red for the cables. Makes things look really nice. And then if I want to change the colors to black and red, or just red, it'll look pretty nice, I think. So these are my cables here for the graphics card. So no matter what graphics card I get, they should all pretty much fit in here. Okay, I don't know about the 4000 series yet, but I know that my graphics card that I have, the 1080, is quite long. Now, I think I'm going to probably switch up. I might just change my mind here and put in a 3060 or something of that nature. But we're 3/4 of the way done. The rest of it is really so simple. Connecting these cables, everything is really quite easy. And the beauty of this case is the openings on the bottom, you got lots of room to do everything. One thing that I always run into is for the USB 3 is where it plugs in. Typically, you have to bend the cable quite a bit to get it in there, so that's going to be a problem. But on this case, let me just see where that's at. So in this case, the USB 3 is right here. So we're going to pull it from behind, plug it in there, and that'll go in really easy. I won't have any problems with that. So I'm going to start connecting all my cables, and we're going to go from there. I'm not going to put my graphics card in yet. I'm not going to put my Wi-Fi adapter card in there yet. That will go last. So I'm going to feed all my cables through first, so I know where I'm going to put them, and then we'll go from there. Okay, so something I overlooked, but there is a solution to it. I've done a video on it. I've got a USB-C cable to enable the USB-C port on the top of my case. However, this motherboard, this is why I keep saying every motherboard should have a USB-C connector on it somewhere. But because it doesn't, I'll have to get an adapter card. So that will have to wait till another time. Everything else will get connected. Right now I'm feeding all my cables through. For some of the fan connectors, I loosened this one on the top. I'll fix this up later. You can see where I've got some of my cables tucked away in here and kind of tightening it up as I go. So that cable is going to go away. We're going to feed our USB 3 connector through and our other cables through, and then we'll connect them all together, and I'll just show you where they all go. Okay, so the PCIe cables are separate. I'm going to plug in my USB 3. So when you're plugging this one in, there's a little divot on this side, and when you look at USB 3 here, there's a little divot on this side, so pointing that way. So line those up, and they'll go in quite easily. Okay, so it's just in there now. Again, I'm going to tuck our cable out of the way a little bit in the back. I'll do that in a minute. I plug in my fan cable on the top up here, and I've got a couple more to plug in down below. That's why I didn't worry about showing you that one, because you see one plug in, they're all pretty much the same. We have our USB cable, so just run any USB port. So these ones right down here, and you can plug it in. Now, when you line that up, there's a missing one that doesn't have a pin, so make sure you line that up properly so it goes in okay. So again, I'm going to tuck all these cables out of the way when I'm done. So I'm going to do this one right now, actually, just to get that out of there. It starts to nice up and look a lot better as you go. So this is our cables now. So again, PLED, positive and negative. Okay, so just fix those cables. And when you look on your case, now you can separate these too, by the way. Okay, if you ever wonder about that, you can pull it. It doesn't hurt anything. It just gives you more room to work with. So when you look at your cables, like I showed you from before, okay, so I don't have an HDD LED light, so I don't need it in the bottom. So I don't need to worry about that. But ordinarily, you plug that one in first, and then put this one on top so that you can see. So let's plug in our two little cables, positive and negative. Now, if you happen to do this wrong, don't worry about it. It's not gonna, it just won't turn on. And then that's where you can focus your checking to make sure that you did things right. So I'm going to plug in our reset cable to the 2 pins on the bottom. Now these are to the right of the pins we just used. Okay, so you should be able to see that. I'm just going to zoom in real good. So that's where our cables are so far. We have one more cable to connect, which is our power switch, so that we can turn it on once we're all done. Okay, so you can see that now. You can see your PLED, positive, negative, power switch, and underneath the power switch is your reset. That's the case cables, except for, of course, our audio and our fans. So fans are pretty simple. Now on this motherboard, they're all 4-pin fans. So we have this I have this connector here for our fan. You get the little tab. Make sure you line that up with your fan header on your motherboard. You see that little tab right there? And then just make sure that's on the bottom, lines up with it, and you plug it in. Just like that. And again, we'll tuck these cables out of the way afterward. I'm going to kind of do it now. I like to do it as I'm going. So we have one more fan again to plug in. And there's another fan header just right here. All right, that one there. So we're going to plug that in exact same way. Okay, so it's in there. Again, we're going to push that cable out of the way. So our only one we have left to worry about now is this one for our audio. So again, there's a pin missing here. Look for the pin where it's missing there and then plug it in. Okay, so our audio is down in here. You can't really do too much with this cable. You can move it out of the way as best you can, but now if you find that your audio in your system is not working, check this cable, okay? Because maybe it got disconnected, maybe it's not properly on the lines. You know, it's hard to say for sure, but you can take it off, put it back in, make sure you line it up, and you'll be good to go. Okay, so now that we got all our case cables on, everything else is on our USB 3. I'm going to pull that back. We've got our power connected. Now, that's when we can turn to the back of the case. All right. And we can put it in our hard drive now. I've already connected the SATA cable. Okay, so that's where this is connected. And because that tucks in nicely there, that's probably where I'm going to leave it maybe. I'll have to decide later on. As long as the case closes, that's all that matters. I'm going to tidy these up nice. And I'm going to nice this up, put our side panel on, and then put all our peripherals on. Rule of thumb, don't put this on until you're completely done, ready to turn it on, because that's when you'll run into a problem and you're going to have to take it off again anyway. So just something to be aware of. Okay, so I'm going to put my Wi-Fi in here now. I took that slot out so it would fit in right down here. So you just push it in. And I'm going to screw that in there just to hold it in place. I took our cable, routed it through here, brought it back up here, and that just is going to allow me to do this and feed my USB cable right into the other USB on the motherboard, and that's going to be the only one left. And then we have just our graphics card left to do after that, and then we'll be done. This is now in here. We'll put our antennas on the back. Let's put our graphics card in there. I'm going to use the 1080 for now, but I'm probably going to switch it out. But just because I want to review the other one on its own, so it's going to go right there. So I'll just kind of set it there so I know, make sure that which 2 slots I have to take out. I have to take these 2 here out. I'll take those out, and then it's going to go in. Okay, so I'll put the screw in, tighten that in. Graphics card's going to go in now. Line it up with your slot. Now, this cable is in the way there. That tends to happen, I find, lately in cases. So that's why you have to take this cable and tuck it out of the way first. Otherwise, you can't get your graphics card in. Okay, so now that I've cleared that up, move that back. It's not going to interfere anymore. Move your graphics card to your slot. You should feel it. That should click in place. And then just put your 2 screws in here. And put your 8-pin for power in there. And in fact, I'm going to have 1 extra cable, but that'll be used later on at some point in time. And then we'll fire it up and see what happens. Okay, so we got our 8-pin put together. Okay, with our cable. With these modded cables, sometimes they can be confusing. So If you're doing that, just be aware, don't mix them up. You got a little tab so you can feel if the tab is on the top or the bottom. It's down here on the bottom. So when I do it, I need to make sure the tab here is pointed down, and then it'll just go in. Should slide in there pretty easy. I always hold the graphics card, make sure it's all in there good. And then if you want to check it, just try and pull it out. It shouldn't come out. Now I'm going to tuck these cables out of the way, clean it up, and I'll be back just before we fire it up. Okay, so I've tidied this up. It's pretty good. I can get my SSDs in here afterward if I want to put in there with no problems at all. I've left a couple of these cables loose because I'm probably going to need them later on. The USB-C, which I definitely will need to get the adapter to put that in there. And these will push in real nice, no problems there. I'll put that on, and I added the antenna on the back. So our antenna for our Wi-Fi. We're going to plug it in for power, put a keyboard and mouse and everything on it, and let's see what happens. Hopefully I didn't mess anything up. But yeah. So overall, not too bad. This does hang down a little bit, which is kind of disappointing, but I don't know, maybe I can tie that up somehow there. That's the only disappointing thing I've got on here. Now, once I do decide to put the 3060 in there, or just tie that up, it'll be fine. So I might do that before I continue, but I don't know. We'll see. I might just leave it because once I use the other, I'm going to need probably both of those. Well, I'm going to play it by ear for now. Anyhow, I'm going to put the side panels on. After I've started it up, make sure everything is working. Okay, so let's power it on. Provided I did everything right. That's a good sign. And lights are going on the motherboard. Looks all good. And if we get a screenshot there, okay. There we go. It's detected our memory. M.2. No keyboard and mouse because I forgot to connect them. But that doesn't matter because it'll come up anyway because I had Windows on here before. It's still going to be looking for, of course, the keyboard and mouse, but at least I can show you that it's all up and it's working. So that's the main thing. Don't be alarmed if that does what it just did there, where it kind of refreshes a little bit. It's perfectly normal. So, hope you like it. I think it's pretty sweet. All right, so I'm pretty happy. Everything's together. So it's kind of, like I say, it's not a build. It's a build overview. Focusing on the things that you want to know in a case, which is how to plug everything in, all that kind of good stuff. And missing the USB-C, case has it, but motherboard doesn't. No problem. There's an adapter you can get for that, and I have a video on it. I'll put that at the end of the video, so it pops up at the end so you can see it. So if you want to have a look at that, you can do that too. And show you how to add that to your motherboard and get Type-C, and it actually will add a couple extra ports to it as well. So anyway, if you like the video, hit that like. If you don't, you know what to do. Leave me a comment down below. Tell me what you didn't like. Tell me, I'd like to have seen this. You know, I try to keep the videos as condensed as I can. Build videos, if you do them all at once, they're super long and nobody watches them. Well, some people do. Anyhow, if you're new here, think about subscribing. Hit that bell for notifications as the next video is going to be coming up. Think about joining, help the channel. Super thanks is now there, so if you like a video, really like it, you can always donate a little bit to the channel and help me out. These things are pricey, as you know. I did not replace the 1080 at this time. I do have a 3060 now, 3060 12 gig. Prices have come way down. So if you're looking for a graphics card at the time of this video, don't wait. Don't wait the 40 series. You might not get your hands on one. 30 series are going to be there, and then they're suddenly going to disappear. So don't wait. Don't miss out. If you've been waiting for a 30 series, and now you're thinking, I'm going to get a 40 series, you're rolling the dice, and you might not be lucky enough to get that. So anyway, thanks for watching. Stay tuned for the next one. Bye-bye.